Thank you for your service. Lunch is on me.
She paid for a soldier's lunch. Then her manager did the unthinkable. The lunch rush at Miller's diner was in full swing when Emma first noticed him. Through the steam rising from the coffee pot and the clatter of plates, she spotted the soldier, sitting alone in booth 7, the one by the rain-streaked window that faced Main Street. He was young, maybe mid-20s, with dirt still caked under his fingernails and a sunburn creeping up his neck from beneath his desert camouflage uniform. His boots were scuffed and dusty, and there was something in the way he held himself, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes distant, that made Emma's chest tighten with recognition. She'd seen that look before on her brother's face when he came, home from Afghanistan. "What can I get you, hon?" Emma asked, approaching with her notepad ready and her warmest smile. The soldier looked up, and she caught a glimpse of exhaustion so profound it seemed to live in his bones. "Just a cheeseburger and fries, ma'am. And coffee if you don't mind." "Of course." Emma scribbled down the order, then hesitated. "You just get back?" A ghost of a smile crossed his features. "Yes, ma'am. Yesterday." "Welcome home." The words came, out softer than she intended. "Thank you." His voice was quiet, but she caught the gratitude threaded through it. "And thank you for your service here. I know it might not seem like much, but places like this, they matter. They're what we're fighting for." Emma felt her throat constrict. She'd been working at Miller's for 3 years, saving every penny for nursing school, and she'd never thought of slinging hash as service before. But the way he said it, with such genuine appreciation, made her see it differently. 20 minutes later, she returned with his meal, watching as he ate with the methodical efficiency of someone who'd learned not to take food for granted. When he finished, she cleared his plate and left the check face down on the table. The soldier reached for his wallet, a worn leather thing that had seen better days, and Emma made a decision that would change everything. She slipped back to the register, pulled out $15 from her apron pocket, money she'd been saving for textbooks, and rang up his meal. Then she grabbed a napkin and wrote, "Thank you for your sacrifice. Lunch is on me. Emma." When she returned to place the receipt and note on his table, the soldier was staring out the window at something she couldn't see. He looked down at the napkin, read it twice, and when he looked back up, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Ma'am, I can't let you— It's already done," Emma said firmly. "Just thank you for everything." He nodded once, stood, and extended his hand. When she shook it, his grip was firm and calloused. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." The soldier was halfway to the door when manager Carl Brennan's voice cut through the diner's ambient noise like a rusty blade. "Emma Rodriguez, get over here. Now." Emma's stomach dropped. Carl was standing behind the register, arms crossed, his face wearing the expression that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. She'd seen him fire 3 people in the past year for infractions half as serious as what she'd just done. "Yes. Mr. Brennan? Did you just comp that soldier's meal?" The diner wasn't exactly quiet before, but now conversations died in ripples as heads turned toward them. Emma felt her face burn with embarrassment as Carl's voice carried across the room. Yes, sir. I paid for it myself." "You paid for it with company property." Carl's voice rose. "That register is company property. This food is company property. You don't get to play Lady Bountiful on my dime." "But I used my own money. You think that matters? You think policy stops mattering because you want to play hero?" Carl stepped closer, and Emma could smell the cigarettes on his breath. "You broke protocol, Rodriguez. You compromised my register system, and you made this decision without authorization. That's grounds for termination." Emma felt the words hit her like physical blows. She needed this job. She needed the money for school, for her mother's medical bills, for the 1,000 things that kept her family afloat. "Mr. Brennan, Please. I just wanted to. I don't care what you wanted. Carl's face was flushed now, and several customers had turned completely around in their seats to watch. You're going to reimburse the company for that meal, and it's coming out of your next paycheck. And if you ever pull a stunt like this again, you're gone. Do you understand me? Emma nodded, blinking back tears of humiliation and rage. Behind Carl, she could see the soldier standing frozen by the door, his hand on the handle, his face a mask of controlled fury. Actually, the soldier said, his voice carrying clearly across the now silent diner. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Carl whipped around. Excuse me? The soldier walked back toward them with measured steps, and Emma noticed something she'd missed before. The insignia on his collar wasn't that of an enlisted man. It was an officer's rank. I said there's been a misunderstanding, the soldier repeated, his voice level but carrying an authority that made Carl take an involuntary step backward. This young lady showed me a kindness, and you're punishing her for it. That seems counterproductive for a business that presumably wants to keep good employees. Look, soldier boy, I appreciate your service and all, but this is my restaurant. Actually, a voice called from booth 3, where an elderly man with a Vietnam veteran's cap was slowly standing up. This is Harold Miller's restaurant. And Harold would be rolling in his grave if he saw how you just treated that girl. The old veteran looked around the room. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Frank Kowalski, and I served with Harold in Vietnam. We came home and built this place together, and when Harold died, he made me promise to keep an eye on it. His gaze shifted to Carl. Seems I haven't been doing a very good job. A woman in booth 5 was holding up her phone. I got the whole thing on video, she announced. That was absolutely disgusting, Carl. Disgusting. Put that phone away, Carl snapped, but the woman shook her head. No. I'm posting this to Facebook right now. People need to see what kind of man Harold Miller left in charge of his legacy. You can't. Actually, she can, said another voice. Emma turned to see Tom Hendricks, the mayor, standing in the doorway with his wife. Behind them were 2 more, people Emma didn't recognize. A woman with a press badge, and a man in a military dress uniform, with enough ribbons on his chest to stock a haberdashery. Tom? Carl's voice had lost some of its bluster. Carl. Mayor Hendricks walked into the diner, followed by the others. We were just coming from the Memorial Day Planning Committee meeting when we got a call about some kind of disturbance here. The woman with the press badge stepped forward. I'm Sarah Chen from Channel 7 News. We were doing a story on the memorial service when we got word that there was an incident involving a veteran. The high-ranking officer, Emma could see now that he was a colonel, approached the soldier, who immediately snapped to attention. At ease, Lieutenant, the colonel said. Mind telling me what happened here? Lieutenant, Emma's eyes widened as she looked at the young soldier with new understanding. Sir, I was just having lunch when this waitress, Emma, showed me an extraordinary kindness. She paid for my meal out of her own pocket, and her manager is now berating her for it publicly and threatening her job. The colonel nodded slowly, then turned to face the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I think there are some things you should know about Lieutenant Michael Torres here. Emma felt her heart skip. Torres. That name was familiar somehow. 3 days ago, Lieutenant Torres was leading a convoy in Syria when they came under attack. He made the decision to turn his vehicle around and go back for a wounded comrade who'd been left behind in the chaos. He saved that soldier's life, but in the process, his own vehicle hit an IED. The diner was dead silent now. Lieutenant Torres spent the next 6 hours in a field hospital, then refused medical leave and insisted on flying home for today's memorial service. He didn't want to miss it, you see, because the memorial service is for his father. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. Torres. Sergeant Eduardo Torres, whose name was engraved on the memorial stone in the town square. The sergeant who'd died in Iraq 15 years ago, leaving behind a widow and a 10-year-old son. Lieutenant Torres came home to honor his father, and the first thing that happened to him in his hometown was a stranger showed him kindness. The colonel continued. And instead of celebrating that kindness, her manager chose to humiliate her. Carl's face had gone pale. I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't care to know, Frank Kowalski said, his voice sharp with decades of suppressed anger. You didn't care to know that this young man's father died serving our country. You didn't care to know that this girl was trying to do something decent. You just cared about your precious $15 and your power trip. Mr. Brennan. Mayor Hendricks stepped forward. As you know, the city council has been reviewing the diner's lease agreement. Miller's has been behind on property tax payments for the past 8 months. Carl's Adam's apple bobbed. Tom, we've been working on that, and we've been patient. But Harold Miller built this place to be the heart of the community. What I saw here today, this isn't what Harold wanted. Lieutenant Torres spoke up. With respect, sir, I don't want anyone to lose their job because of me. This isn't about you, son, Frank Kowalski said gently. This is about who we are as a community. Harold Miller believed that how we treat each other, especially how we treat those who've served, that's what makes us Americans. Sarah Chen, the reporter, was filming everything. I'd like to interview both of you, she said to Emma and Lieutenant Torres. This is exactly the kind of story people need to hear. Carl tried one more time. Look, maybe we can work this out. Carl. The voice came from the doorway, and everyone turned to see Maria Gonzalez, the president of the city council. Behind her were 3 other council members. We need to talk. As the council members ushered Carl toward the back of the restaurant, Lieutenant Torres approached Emma. I'm sorry you got in trouble because of me, he said. Emma shook her head. Don't you dare apologize. What I did because it was right, because you deserved it, because... She paused, looking at this young man who'd lost his father, served his country, saved a friend's life, and still had the grace to thank a waitress for her service. Because your father would have been proud. Lieutenant Torres's composure finally cracked. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. He used to bring me here when I was little, right after he enlisted. He'd tell me that this place represented everything good about America. People taking care of each other, working hard, treating everyone with dignity. He was right, Emma said. Frank Kowalski approached them. Lieutenant, I knew your father. He was a good man, a damn good soldier. Thank you, sir. Emma, I want to talk to you about something. Frank's weathered face creased into a smile. Harold's will established a scholarship fund for local students pursuing careers in healthcare. The fund has been mismanaged for years. Carl was supposed to be administering it, but we're getting it straightened out. I think Harold would have wanted you to be the first recipient. Emma's knees nearly buckled. Mr. Kowalski, I can't. You can and you will. Harold believed in rewarding character, and what you did today, knowing you could lose your job but doing it anyway because it was right, that's character. The reporter, Sarah Chen, approached with her cameraman. Emma, Lieutenant Torres, would you be willing to go on camera? I think people need to hear this story. Lieutenant Torres looked at Emma. Only if you're comfortable with it. Emma nodded. They sat together in the booth where it all started, and Sarah Chen asked them to tell their story. I just saw someone who'd given everything for his country, Emma said, looking directly into the camera. And I wanted to give something back. It wasn't much, just a burger and fries, but it felt important. It was important, Lieutenant Torres said. Not because of the money, but because it reminded me why I serve. Because there are people like Emma in the world, people who see a stranger and choose kindness. What's your message to people watching this? Sarah asked. Emma and Lieutenant Torres looked at each other, and she saw something pass between them. An understanding born of shared values and mutual respect. Small acts of kindness matter, Emma said. You never know who needs them or when they'll make a difference. And sometimes, Lieutenant Torres added, the person you help ends up helping you more than you helped them. As the interview concluded, Mayor Hendricks announced that Carl Brennan had agreed to step down as manager and that the city council would be working with Harold Miller's estate to ensure the diner was run according to Harold's original vision. Frank Kowalski would be taking over as interim manager until they found someone permanent, someone who understood that Miller's Diner wasn't just a restaurant, but a cornerstone of the community. That evening, as the sun set over Main Street, the memorial service for fallen veterans took place in the town square. Lieutenant Torres stood with his mother as they unveiled his father's name on the memorial stone, and Emma was there too, along with what seemed like half the town. When Lieutenant Torres spoke about his father, his voice carried across the gathered crowd with quiet strength. My father believed that heroism isn't just about the big moments, the battles won, or the lives saved in dramatic fashion. He believed that heroism is about the small choices we make every day. The choice to be kind when no one's watching. The choice to do what's right even when it's difficult. The choice to see the humanity in everyone we meet. His eyes found Emma in the crowd. Today, I was reminded that his legacy lives on. Not just in the son he raised, but in the community he loved. In people like Emma Rodriguez, who choose kindness. In people like Frank Kowalski, who choose to stand up for what's right. In all of you, who choose to be the America my father believed in. Later, as the crowd dispersed and the memorial candles flickered in the evening breeze, Emma found herself standing beside the memorial stone, reading the names etched in black granite. Eduardo Torres, she whispered. You raised a good son. Lieutenant Torres appeared beside her. Thank you. For everything. Thank you, she replied. For your service. For your sacrifice. For reminding me that doing the right thing is always worth it, even when it's hard. They stood together in comfortable silence, two people whose lives had intersected for just a moment, but whose brief encounter had changed everything. In the distance, Miller's Diner glowed with warm light, its windows full of families sharing meals and stories. Frank Kowalski was behind the counter, serving coffee and treating every customer like family. The sign in the window read, "All are welcome here," and for the first time in years it felt true. 3 months later, Emma started nursing school on a full scholarship from the Harold Miller Memorial Fund. She kept a photo on her desk, a picture from the memorial service showing her and Lieutenant Torres standing together, both of them smiling, both of them proof that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes. Lieutenant Torres returned to his unit, but he wrote Emma letters, telling her about the soldiers he served with, the people he met, the kindnesses he witnessed and participated in around the world. Each letter reminded her that goodness is contagious, that it spreads from person to person, creating ripples that touch lives in ways we can never fully know. And every Memorial Day since, Emma volunteers at the memorial service, helping to read the names of the fallen, including Sergeant Eduardo Torres. She always pauses at his name, remembering the afternoon when she paid for a soldier's lunch, and learned that sometimes the smallest gestures have the power to reveal the best in everyone. The story of that day at Miller's Diner became legend in the small town, retold whenever people needed reminding that character is revealed not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments when no one important is watching, when we choose kindness simply because it's right. And in that choice, we honor not just those who serve, but the values they serve to protect.